Hello, San Diego. Thanks for joining us here on CBS 8 Plus. I'm meteorologist Shawn Styles with a look at your weather, and we are finally going to start to see some active weather as opposed to this benign, really calm weather pattern we've been seeing for at least the past 2.5 to 3 weeks. As high pressure is finally shifting and a big area of low pressure is finally digging south. It has been pounding the Pacific Northwest. Today, though, you couldn't tell anything was heading our way. As you look at temperatures right now, we're low to mid 60s coastal. Once you get inland, it goes into the upper 60s, low 70s in places like El Cajon, Alpine. Mountains, very, very pleasant up there, 67 in Julian, and just a really, really nice day out in the Borrego Springs area. No real wind pushing anything around and just kind of a calm weather pattern. We do have a weather impact heading our way as a very severe area of low pressure tapping into an atmospheric river will start to come in as we get into Wednesday. So we're talking about heavy rain. Leading up to that, you wouldn't really know that anything was heading our way. We might get some rain late in the evening, almost overnight on Tuesday into Wednesday morning, but it looks like Wednesday is going to really pack a punch both along the coast, inland, mountains. Everyone's going to get in on this as some very, very heavy rain, atmospheric river type rain. So it's going to be moist, warm. Snow levels will be very, very high. So don't think we're going to see any snow here in Southern California. But leading up to that, temperatures will stay very, very nice. This is how severe this is looking. The National Weather Service has got a flood watch for all of San Diego. This extends into Riverside County, Los Angeles, Orange County, all the way up the coastline, basically to say San Luis Obispo. So we're talking about some pretty big rain. Hazy out there right now, no real wind mixing anything around, and as we look at those winds, relatively calm, 64 degrees. Humidity is up. There might be a little puff of wind here and or there, but no real dramatic wind out there right now. And some things are starting to change across the nation. You remember last week we had these incredibly cold temperatures along the Canadian border and into the Great Lakes brought in by the polar vortex. Well, the polar vortex is tightening up. It's becoming stronger, and as it does, it pulls that colder air back up into the Arctic. And so we're not seeing the brutally cold temperatures. Still, 29 in Chicago is pretty chilly. But notice how the entire rest of the nation is very, very mild. From, say, Oklahoma City, they were in their 30s for daytime highs just 4 or 5 days ago, into the mid-Atlantic. 54 in Atlanta right now. And as we take you out west, taking a closer look at what's happening here in the Southern California area and over the Sierra Nevada, Mammoth, 54 degrees. That's going to change. Snow levels will start out very high at about 8,500 feet, but then eventually start to lower down. All right, here's the culprit, and see this right here? This is that plume of moisture that stretches out into the Pacific. This area of low pressure acts as basically a cog in a wheel, and it taps into this moisture and it just plows it into the west coast. We've got a secondary low that swings in behind it, then we've got all this moisture coming in. And this area of low pressure will really be the dynamic part of this storm. As it starts to make its way south, it will tap into that moisture, push it all into Southern California, and then eventually bring in some cold air. But the majority of this storm, for the first half of it, will be all rain to about 8,500 feet. After that, it starts to get cold and we get that northwesterly flow, and that'll bring heavy snow into the Sierra Nevada. I doubt if we'll see any snow here in San Diego, maybe up around the Big Bear Lake area. Eventually, high pressure returns and starts to build in, but we do have another area of low pressure sitting in the Pacific Northwest, and this is not going to be a super strong high pressure, but it could be a blocking mechanism. Rain, it looks like completely rain on your Christmas Eve. Christmas Day, a little bit less, and then we start to taper off as we get towards the weekend. We've got that weather impact for Wednesday and Thursday, so Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, heavy rain at times on Wednesday into Thursday, and then we start to see things dry out a little bit. So Christmas looks pretty wet. It'll weaken just a little bit as we get into Kwanzaa, and then as we move into, say, Hello, San Diego. Thanks for joining us here on CBS 8 Plus. I'm meteorologist Shawn Styles with a look at your weather. And it looks like some big changes heading our way. But for right now, we're low 60s to mid 60s inland, low 70s in places like El Cajon and Alpine. In the mountains, pretty nice, 66 in Julian, 75 in Borrego. The thing is, by the time we get to Christmas Eve, we're going to start to see the big storm move into the west coast, and it will affect us leading up to that pretty benign and mild weather. As we look at the inland microclimates, you're definitely going to see some big rain there as well, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches by the time this storm pulls out, and some of the most prone areas to picking up rain, we could see 5 or 6 inches of rain, so westerly facing slopes. The National Weather Service flash flood watch for all of San Diego County, Orange County, Riverside County, Los Angeles. It just keeps going and going. This will start in the morning early on Wednesday and last through Thursday in the early morning hours. Outside right now, pretty hazy as we look from Mount Soledad. Temperature 64, winds basically calm, humidity at 78%, hence the haziness. Now, as you look across the nation, the polar vortex has backed off a little bit. Still very chilly over the northeast, 29 in Chicago, 39 in Philadelphia, 33 in New York City. Out west, though, very mild as high pressure continues to keep things relatively mild for us. Also, the atmospheric river that's coming into the Pacific Northwest and Northern California is tapping into very warm air. So as that comes on shore, we're not going to see some big cool down that will bring heavy snow to the Sierra Nevada to the lower elevations. Higher elevations, yes. But for right now, Mammoth Lake's at 54. You come back to Santa Barbara, 62, Palm Springs, 74, 79 in Phoenix, and 66 in Las Vegas. All right, here's the area of low pressure. This is the plume of moisture, the atmospheric river, the Pineapple Express, whatever you'd like to call it. It's pulling a ton of moisture out of the tropics. This area of low pressure is the wheel, and it's got a cog tapping into this train of moisture that's coming into Southern California. Heavy at times. Eventually, we'll start to see snow levels drop down to about, say, 6,500 feet. It'll start out very high, though. The low eventually moves in, the colder air settles in behind it, but then watch as high pressure starts to rebuild over the central Pacific and nudges itself up along the west coast. Another low in the Pacific Northwest, but for now, it looks like that storm will be pulling out as we make our way into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Tuesday, maybe a sprinkle or two overnight into Wednesday morning. The rain becomes heavy at times overnight. That's why they've got that flood watch out starting at 2 a.m. It lingers into Thursday, Friday, maybe some showers here and or there. Looking at your next 7 days, the rain, as I said, possible early Wednesday morning, late Tuesday night. And then as we get into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we've got a weather impact for you there. The showers continue somewhat into Friday, into your Kwanzaa, and then we start to dry out for the weekend. For the mountains and deserts, you also will be in the same pattern with the showers heavy at times, especially on those west-facing slopes of the mountains. That's a look at your weather.